Hello, everybody, and welcome to our workshop on empathy versus accountability. My name is Laura Cook. I am your success and leadership coach, and I am pleased to bring you this replay. So we decided to just start a clean version of the replay for your records so that I didn't have to cut out some of the confidential conversations we had as a group when we joined live. So definitely there's a benefit to joining live, but I'm glad that you're here to catch the replay, and I'd love to hear you participate even just through the comments and conversation in this post so that we can continue our learning together. So we looked at our introductions, who was on the call. Then we're going to dig into the definitions of empathy and accountability, looking at finding the balance, did a bit of scenario-based peer coaching, and talked about how you can keep your learning alive. So something called you to this recording, even though you didn't join us live, and I'm just going to invite you to clear your distractions, grab a pen and paper, make some notes, participate in the comments, support each other's comments. If you see somebody else who's written something that you want to just support or chime in on, that's how we learn as in community. And that's what I love so much about our Legacy Leadership Academy. Okay, so we won't be able to do our introductions, but I'll just have you reflect on what is it that drew you to this course? What were you hoping to get out of it? And part of it is you probably are having trouble finding the balance between empathy and accountability. So if we were to draw a line in the middle, empathy is on the side, left side, accountability is on the right-hand side, where would you place yourself? Where would you place yourself? On the left-hand side, on the right-hand side? Is it an extreme? Is it closer to the middle? Just take a moment here and think about where you gauge in terms of this balance between empathy and accountability. One thing I liked to open our session with is just an acknowledgement that leaders are facing a lot right now. We've got ongoing demands from our customers, our business, our boards, our clients, our patients who need more from us. And so senior leaders are really coming down on us with, requirements and objectives and things that need to be implemented and changes and initiatives. So we are typically, if you're like me, stuck in the middle where you're hearing the demands, you need to get things done, but your team is burnt out. They are doing more with less. They're struggling with issues that in their personal lives, maybe mental health concerns, illnesses, etc. So how do we manage when we're stuck in between those two places? And if you can relate, I'd love to just hear if that's you. So understanding that this is the predicament you're in, let's dig into what empathy is. When we look at the definition by Brene Brown, empathy is connecting with people so that they know they're not alone when in struggle. And so when we're leaders, when we're leading a team, it's important to let our team members know they're not alone. But often we can sometimes take it too far, or we might get it wrong. And so what is empathy not? Empathy is not connecting to a situation. We don't have to have been through the exact situation that this person's been in to be able to connect. We only need to be able to connect to the emotion. So the example I give here is if a friend of mine loses their job, and let's say I've never lost mine. I have, but let's say I haven't. I don't have to know what it feels like to lose your job. I need to know what it feels like to experience the emotion they're experiencing. So how do I know what emotion they're experiencing? I can ask, or I can imagine and then check in. So you've lost your job today. That must feel really overwhelming. Is that how you're feeling? And then just check in. And all you need to do is connect with that feeling of overwhelm or frustration or fear or anger, whatever it is they're experiencing. So then as a group, what we did, and I'll just have you reflect on your own, we thought about a time when empathy was done well, either when we've expressed it and we felt like, yeah, we nailed it, we got it right, or when someone gave it to us and we really felt understood. I'd like you to do that. So just pause the video, make some notes, and if you want to share in the comments what you came up with, I'd love to hear what are the elements of empathy done well. Okay, next we called it the dark side, but that's in just a little bit. It was more just to look at the other side of empathy. So think about a time where either you didn't deliver it in a way that you had hoped and you kind of walked away thinking, oh, I kind of screwed that up. Or maybe someone approached empathy with you in a way that didn't land. What did that feel like? What was present? What made it ineffective? Again, pause, take some time to reflect, and then share it in the comments, if you will. Next, we're looking at the definition of accountability. So accountability means that we own our mistakes, apologize, and make amends. What is accountability not? It's not a free pass as long as you apologize, right? There's still perhaps some consequences. So while it's important to take accountability, when we are just constantly apologizing, but we're not changing our behavior, it's not actually accountability because something needs to change. It needs to be the first step towards change. So again, as a group, we looked at accountability. And what I'd like you to do is think about a time where you've seen accountability done well. Maybe when you really held someone accountable and it was effective, it incited change, the person felt understood, they were alongside for the improvement, or maybe when someone held you accountable, but it didn't land, it didn't make sense. Again, we're looking at the other side. So when did you maybe hold someone accountable and it was not the right approach, or somebody tried to hold you accountable and it wasn't the right approach? What was present that made it either effective or ineffective? So again, you can pause the video, reflect on these two questions, and then come back when you're ready. Let's look at empathy and boundaries. So the research showed that with over 500,000 pieces of data, the most compassionate people are also the most boundaried. How can that be true? So we had a conversation about that. And what came up is that if I am making accommodations, if I am being there for you, if I am taking on your work or taking work away from you, but having to do it myself, I'm either going to be hurting myself because I've now taken on too much and I'm going to be stretched too thin, or I'm going to be resentful. And so the most compassionate people are the most boundaried because they protect themselves. And so when they give something, when they give you attention, when they give you empathy, when they give you concessions, it's done so with a full heart. You know what they say is what they mean. They're not going to resent you. This isn't going to be held against you. They're not going to be overtaxing themselves and then damaging themselves. So when you think about empathy, I also want you to think about what boundaries do I need to put in place to be able to be empathetic. Next, we're going to talk about accountability. And if you've taken Dare to Lead with me, this quote you already know. It's this notion that we either spend a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings, so getting underneath the root cause of the issue, or we're going to spend way too much time managing ineffective and unproductive behavior, so managing the symptoms. So as a leader, you have a choice. Am I going to manage the symptoms, or am I going to get at the heart of what needs to happen? And when we get at the heart of what needs to happen, that's when we can really make change. So let's look at what it feels like to be out of alignment. And in our session today, there was a good conversation about how empathy too low and accountability too high are somewhat similar, I believe. It's not the one that we said. Let me just check this. Well, let's go through and we'll see what you think. So let's see, when empathy is too high, it ignores your own priorities, right? So things have to get done, but when you're being too empathetic, maybe you're compromising those. It allows work to slip. We're not holding people to get their work done. It might invite more problems. So people know that when they have a problem, I'm going to let them off really easily. They might be more encouraged to bring further problems to me, and it might make me seem too caring. And I know maybe you can never be too caring, but we also need to know when we're running businesses, right? We're serving clients. So when do I need to maybe tighten up a bit? When empathy is too low, we ignore the fact that we're all human. We're going to go through struggle, and there needs to be some accommodation of that. Employees are going to come and suffer in silence. They might, the symptoms might prolong because we never let them really fully recover. And it may make me as a leader seem unapproachable. Let's look at accountability. Accountability, too much accountability, if we're too hard on people, it's going to ignore, again, the hardship that people are going through. It doesn't make any room for real life problems, and it's going to lead to turnover, leaves, mental health concerns. It might make me seem inhumane. And finally, accountability too low. It blurs the lines between what's okay and am I your leader or am I your friend? It can cause team divisiveness because your team might notice that you're being way too accommodating for someone on your team, and it might make you lose credibility as a leader. So I've gone ahead and put some labels on these, and it's more for fun than anything, but I want you to think about if you had to put yourself in a box, which box would you sit in? So we had a good point that the pushover and the friendly boss might be very similar. So I want you to think first, when you answered that question, are you more on the empathy side or the accountability side? And then you can decide, am I the pushover, too much empathy, or am I the friendly boss, not enough accountability? Finally, we have the avoider, where empathy is too low, or the hard ass, where accountability is too high. So just think about which one you are and maybe pop it in the chat. I'd love to hear how many we have of each. So scenario number one, we're going to go through these scenarios and I want you to pause them after I read the scenario. Think about how you might handle it, and then I'll give you some ideas. The first one is a personal challenge. So you have an employee who's caring for their elderly parent and they've been late 2 days a week for the last few weeks due to medical appointments for their parent. You want to be accommodating, but you also have deadlines and other staff members who are starting to notice the lateness. What do you do? So pause, think about it, and then come back. Okay, welcome back. So here are some ideas we came up with. First, decide if you can accommodate an altered schedule, and if yes, for how long. Don't leave it indefinite. You need to have an ending period. Decide how you will communicate this with your team, if at all. We talked about the importance of transparency. So asking the person, is it okay to share this with the team? Because then that gives them an opportunity to rally around your team member and they can step up and help out. Make an agreement to check in again after a specific time frame. As mentioned, this is not an indefinite accommodation. You need to have an end date. And so if things need to progress beyond that, there might be a different conversation or different decisions or actions you need to take as a leader. Okay, scenario two, questioning decisions. So the example we used for this one in the masterclass was assigning somebody to a project. So you've had to make a tough decision about who to assign to a specific project. And you've had an employee who disagrees, or maybe more than one employee who disagrees with you. What do you do? So again, pause and come back for some suggestions. Welcome back. So what we talked about and some of the things I've captured. You can share your decision-making process. What inputs did you seek? What data informed your decisions? What were the constraints? Maybe you were time-bound. Maybe you had to make a decision quickly and you didn't have all the data. Ask them what's not working with your decision. It probably comes from them wanting to be part of the project. And maybe you need to have a tough conversations about a skills gap and a development conversation about how to fill that gap. Ask what they would like to see differently or what's important to you. Look for ways to include their input moving forward. So knowing that now that I know that you're interested, let's work together to get you to a place where you would be a good candidate for our next project. And ask how they would like to be included, consulted in the future, and understanding that this can't always happen. Sometimes we as leaders have to make decisions and we can't consult everybody. And so also making that clear. Okay, finally, we have scenario number 3, team burnout. So your team's burned out. You need to create some time and space for recovery, but you are under pressure to deliver based on your leaders. What do you do? So again, pause, think, and come back for some ideas. Welcome back. So what we talked about is to consult your leadership. Let them know you want to create some space for recovery, that you feel your team's burnt out, and you'd like their input on how to provide that to your team. Now, depending on your leadership, you may get some ideas or you may just get too bad, suck it up, move on. But worth checking with them because maybe they don't even know that what they're demanding of you is almost impossible. Number two, find the value underlying the desired action. What does that mean? So if we're trying to create rest for our team, that's the value underneath the burnout, right? So teams burnt out, we need to create rest. So try and find different ways to offer that rest. What does that look like? Is it individual? Is it a group thing? Do we need to reground as a group through a team building, or is it more each of us individually just need a reset? Ask your employees what restores them specifically. Is it within reason to provide that? You can ask them and then you can decide. Can you cycle through rest periods? So not all of us at once. Maybe one day if we're a service-based team, maybe it's my day on Monday where I get off of the email shared inbox and I get to catch up. And tomorrow it's your day. And Wednesday it's the next person's day. So whatever that is, can we cycle through where, for each of us takes a turn where the others jump in to help out so that we can restore? Another tool I talked about was this idea of whose cup is full. And it's a daily check-in you do to say, are you a green, red, or yellow? Green is I have some capacity, I can help out if someone needs. Yellow is I'm full out, but I don't need help at this point. And red is I'm too taxed. I need something to come off of my plate. So that's a quick check-in you can do with your team and then action accordingly. Now, again, we want to make sure that we're not noticing patterns. If it's always the same person saying red and they're just not pulling their weight, then we've got to have a different conversation around that. Finally, we had a conversation around our specific challenges. So what was a situation that we were facing where we're having trouble finding the balance between empathy and accountability? And then we shared some ideas. So obviously you won't be able to benefit from that discussion, but what I will offer is an opportunity for you to reach out to me and we can have a conversation together. And then I'd like you to make a commitment. What's one step or action you will take knowing what you know now? So that's it for our masterclass. Thanks for watching the speedy replay. I do want to let you know that I'm offering 200 off for my full Dare to Lead program. If you use the QR code Masterclass as it's written there, I will pop a link to my upcoming offerings. You can also schedule a one-on-one with me, or if you want to do something custom for your team, feel free to reach out. We'll book a call and talk about what that looks like and what fits within your specific needs. I'm happy to answer your questions. If you have any, please put them in the comments and I will answer every single one that I get. And I just want to remind you and inspire you to find a different way to lead. We've got to change how leadership is, and it's time for us to become that future. So thanks for watching our replay. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm also looking for ideas on what to do next. I'm thinking feedback / difficult conversations. What do you think? Let me know. Okay, see you soon. Bye.